Okay, I think we'll get started with introductions. Thank you, everybody, for attending our event today. This is the CIPA Emerging Professionals hosting the Present Your Thesis, Dissertation, or Research. And we're very excited to have Roberto share his research with us today. Also on the line from the CIPA EP team, we have Elise and we have Dina, who are taking on this initiative. And then we also have our experts, Alex, Mina, and Filippo, to share their feedback at the end. And then after that, we'll open up the floor to any Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Roberto, and we can get started. So Roberto is, he's currently in Lima, Peru, but he completed his master's in architectural conservation in 2021 from the Sapienza University of Rome in the Department of History, Representation, and Restoration of Architecture. He is an architect and conservator in training with experience working on projects of different scales. He's interested in the conservation, consolidation, and enhancement of archaeological sites and architectural monuments. He's also interested in the representation and analysis of masonry and constructive techniques, which I'm sure he'll touch on in his research today, called A New Proposal for the Architectural Stratigraphic Diagram. So Roberto, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see the screen? Okay. After I completed my master last year, I discovered that I was kind of good in the documentation of monuments, or 2 years ago. I'm skilled in drawing or a scientific representation of sites, previous the project of conservation. And since last year, I was wondering, I wanted to do a PhD, so I started to prepare my proposal. And after reading many topics I can be, or I was able to develop, I thought that I have to keep improving my skills in the documentation, that kind of stuff. And finally, I found what is called the stratigraphic diagram that was developed by the archaeologist Edward Harris in the 90s, 1970, more or less. And I discovered later that this method, I'm going to explain in the next slide, was applied, or they try to apply to the architectural monuments, always for the documentation and to provide a first overview of the area of the monument, of the building, of the archaeological sites, even though, or also for the paintings, since there are many researches about how to apply this method to the conservation of paintings and sculptures. So the stratigraphic diagram is a method, for the archaeological documentation during the excavation, how to document all the finds and all the elements that archaeologists find in the different stratigraphic layers, with the idea of provide a first overview. The stratigraphic diagram is the combination of, you can see here in the boxes A, B, C, and D, that there are numbers, and each number represents a specific layer, what archaeologists call deposits, interfaces, finds. And the stratigraphic diagram is the diagram that is in the middle, where in the box that says A plus B plus C, which is a printed sheet of paper that contain rectangular boxes. And in that box, in each box, archaeologists write down the number. In this sense, they represent a stratigraphic relationship between the elements, or what they call the finds. So the stratigraphic, the Harris matrix, which is just the printed sheet with the rectangular boxes, is the diagram represents the stratigraphic sequences of the site, which the order of the deposition of layers and the creation of future interfaces through the course of time. The practice comes from the initial idea of the stratigraphic archaeological representation. Edward Harris explained that the concept of stratigraphy applied to the archaeology consists in the appreciation and survey of the soils and walls periodization, the strata, and all the finds. by numbering layers with the understanding that such enumeration allows the artifacts to be given a systematic provenance and seem to be peculiar to the stratum in which they were found. He said that there is no need to provide a datation of the elements. It's just a first overview. And he said later that we can assume as an archaeologist that the number that are over the others are newer compared with the ones that are below. And he said that all the finds are found perhaps in the similar position that they were deposed in the past. This method is credited, and finally he said that this could be applied also for the documentation of standing structures. After this phrase, many Italian architects started to try to apply this method as with following the method that Harris developed. And the systematization and the development of the stratigraphic study of structures are mainly due to a group of Italian archaeologists and architects who from the beginning of the 80s began the debate on the subject. So the method consists in establish the relationship of the archaeological units. Here we can see three kinds of relationships. Harris identified just 3 types of relationships among the elements found in the excavations. For example, the figure B represents the units that have no direct stratigraphic physical relationship. They represent 2 different deposits found in the same excavation. In letter C, they are in superposition. And in letter D, the units are correlated as part of a one whole deposit that has been modified because nature or because human construction in later periods. The objective of this method is to provide a first overview of the area and the features. And later, some improvements were done to the first diagram in order to add more information, like dates of the finds. After you label all the layers, it's better to start with the analysis to find the dates or from which, or find the dates and from which time they belong. Sorry. Okay, the first improvement to the diagram, and it means the first improvement and application to standing structures, belongs to Professor Davis. He developed, he's an Australian archaeologist, and he developed for the first time, or the first known time, the method. He applied the method to a standing structure. In this case, it's a house. He said that his method tried to organize logically into the recognizance, recording, analysis, interpretation, and result presentation. He said there should be a manner to apply the method from the excavation in the upper part at the left. He said there is the excavation layers, then the structure documentation with numbers, and the image in the middle, it's the combination of both. Then he said that it's after you have the combination of the excavation and the structure, it's time to document the phases. That it means the time in which each element was placed in such a position or in the position they were found. After that, he tried to apply after his process, he tried to apply 2 modifications to the main method that Harris developed in the beginning. He said that the first change must be to order chronologically the elements. Instead of putting in position in the order you find the elements, he said that in the upper part should be the later the elements that were added later. This way, the matrix will present the real order the elements were inserted into the constructions. And the second modification, it's the image in the middle. You can see he said that it's better to change the symbols in order to add more information. Instead of just use the rectangular boxes that Harris proposed, for the if you want to restore or to propose a project of restoration for a structure, it is important to know the datation or the dates of the elements. So in this sense, Professor Davis identify or develop a manner in which you can provide different information more than the specific characteristics of the elements. In this case, we can see rectangles, squares, circles, and legend and descriptions of the elements that were found. A second improvement was developed by one of the most important architects in Italy related with this method, with what is Professor Gianpietro Brogiolo. He considered difficult to get one complete reading of the structure, because sometimes it is impossible to document physically all the parts of the buildings. Sometimes there are buildings that you can't access to one specific part because currently they are surrounded by other constructions that make impossible the documentation of that area. Or the outside is different or very different than the inner part. Therefore, it is better to subdivide the whole in specific parts, what he calls the unità di riferimento, the reference unit. This reference unit allows to focus in different degrees the architectural components of a building. He proposed to divide this reference unit in 7 parts. His method was trying to apply. His method regards the analysis of the specific part of the building, not anymore concentrating in the whole complex. So in this diagram, we can see how he divided the unit in 7 parts. The first one is the architectural complex. Sorry, the letters are in Italian, complesso architettonico, which is the architectural complex. And this architectural complex is composed of different parts of a fabric. This CF is the different part of the building. In this case, he just divided the building in 3, and we are focusing one specific part. After that, each fabric is distinguished by specific architectural features. So in this sense, he's trying to demonstrate that it's better to get more specific information for the restoration project. But the problem is that there is going to be a lot of diagrams per each specific part. So in this sense, you are not providing a first overview of the construction. You are going directly with the analysis that perhaps is not important at the beginning of the monument. And the last part is the EA, which is in the lower part, which is an analysis of the architectonic element. So this is the way you can go from the specific, from the complete building to the specific. And for now, the last improvement I found just applied, always focusing in applying the method to the standing structure, was done in 2003 by an Italian professor, Carlos Tosco, from the Politecnico di Torino. He proposed a new approach, identifying 2 problems for the 2 previous methods. The first one looks to analyze a specific part of the building, the Professor Brogiolo method, by considering the area of the structure as more important or simply the most accessible. As I said before, sometimes specific parts of the building are impossible to access because they are surrounded with other buildings or new constructions. And this analysis of a specific part just provide a partial lecture of the construction. Second improvement, try to multiply the unit of analysis as much as possible in order to record every single detail of the complex. But this is not useful for understanding the whole story or proposing a conservation project, because you are not focusing in the whole, you are focusing in a specific part. At the end, I think it's important, but in this time of the analysis of the monument, it's not. So here comes my proposal. After reading a lot, I'm sure I'm going to read more, of course, to get more information about the previous improvements. I realized that my proposal should go with what is missing to get a better development, a better diagram. And for example, you can see here my documentation that belongs to my master thesis. Those drawings are part of the analysis of the part of the Aurelian Wall in Rome. And I was thinking that how to provide more information to the diagram, in the sense that there's still missing some information like the analysis of the pathologies, the state of conservation, the pathologies, and perhaps if we find a different order for the elements, there could be the possibility to add the methods of conservation. But why I want to try this? Because since technology is helping everyone or is helping the conservation, I think it is better to provide as a first documentation to the specialist the diagram with a specific laying and with a specific description of the elements or the finds. It is easier instead of sending all the plans, all the documentations, all the details, all the masonry analysis, that maybe it's not important at the beginning for the specialist to understand the construction or what they are going to propose for a restoration project. So my proposal is divided in seven points. Sorry, it's written, but I couldn't develop the diagrams because I'm still, it's a PhD proposal yet. So the first point is the analysis and interpretation and reinterpretation of the previous attempt of integrating the stratigraphic analysis into monument conservation. I'm still analyzing the previous modifications to the first diagram. We need to remember that the diagram was proposed for the archaeological excavation, not for the architecture. But since there have been improvements, I think it's a good tool to provide information in an easier way. Second, start my proposal with the suggestion of a new approach, but not anymore creating stratigraphic relationships of time. I think it is easier to consider the basic relationships of the architectural elements that I identify as structural and aesthetic. Because if you want to restore a construction or a monument, you are not going, if you want to restore the space, first you need to restore the structural and aesthetical elements, because they are the ones that conform or give shape to the space. The space, I think, is a more subjective notion of, and the definition is not clear when you want to label all the elements that you find in the excavation or in the documentation of the project. Then number three, after establishing the relationship between the elements, I have to establish the relationship, between the elements regarding their function in the construction. As we found in the beginning, as we saw in the beginning, we need to put the elements in the boxes, but I'm proposing to put the element in the boxes not in a chronological order, but in the order you found in the order you find inside the monument. As I said, not creating sequences or relationships of time, but relationship of function. What is the function of the element within the whole? Number four is the first result, the diagram in which the disposition of the numbers accurately represents the reality on site with proper correlation of function, and showing separately both architectural element groups. So in this case, we have finally ordered all the elements, at least the elements that we want to restore. 5, it is not important to dispose the element in chronological order, because the information could be given in a legend, in the description of the element. In that description, we can say when this element was found, but after the proper analysis. Focusing just in the first part, it's just the documentation of all the elements that are located in the monument or in the archaeological site. Number 6, once the elements are ordered, it's time to include new information such as the degradation state. By grouping the pathologies as much as possible in 3 affections groups. Those brought on by water or humidity, possible showing the diagram, color in blue the symbol. Those those regarding to the biological or green pathologies, and those affections created by humans. There could be a fourth group, which is the natural disasters, but those are the ones that can turn down the structure. And finally, after all this reorganization, it's possible to add the information about the methods of conservation per each object that are already individualized in the diagram. Finally, the objective is to suggest a matrix that is capable of assuming and organizing a large amount of data and exposing it in an easier and logical and chronological order. I'm not sure about the chronological order, but this could be added in the legend, in the information of the element. It is about to enhance the existing charter by including more specific information and make coexist all the data, such as the history of the monument, the components that make it up, the different building stages, the pathologies, and if possible, the heritage protection measures. It means presenting all the evidence from the heritage analysis in a single chart. And I think I finished. Yes, I finished. I just want to say that it's the first time I'm presenting my PhD proposal. It's the first time I'm doing a PhD proposal. And I'm sure there are a lot of information I must read and add to make it more clear. But I'm just here to get all your advices, and all of them are welcome. And even though they are really very bad critics, but I just want to listen everything. And I'm sure I can get better and apply this year or next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. That's a very thoughtful proposal. We appreciate your presentation. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it over to Dina and Elise to introduce our experts and then moderate the Q&A after. Dina's at the Politecnico di Milano and Elise is at the Carleton University here in Ottawa, Canada. But you'll be introduced to them more later on our social media platforms. But for now, ladies, go ahead and introduce our experts.
Should I stop my screen? Sorry, sharing my screen?
You could leave it on this slide. It might be helpful for feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Roberto, so much for your presentation. So I'm going to introduce Alex Yan, our first expert for this presentation and discussion. Alex is a full professor of the Department of Architecture at the China University of Technology in Taiwan. He is the current vice president of CIPA Heritage Documentation. Alex majored in the history of architecture, conservation, theory, and implementation, and has more than 40 years of experience in this field. So we'll be welcoming Alex to share some questions and comments in a moment. Our second expert will be Mina Silver. Mina is an adjunct professor in Near Eastern archaeology at the University of Oulu, Finland. She was the president of ICOMOS Finland from 2018 to 2019. And in 2014, she was a professor at Mardin University in Turkey. And since 2020, she has been on the CIPA executive board as the commission chair of application of recording, documentation, and information management for cultural heritage. Mina has been a leader of many projects in the fields of archaeology, including Sigis, Jebel Bishri, the Finnish project in Syria. And I'll just turn it over to Dina to share our third and final expert.
Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Roberto. And thank you to our experts being here today with us. And we have also Filippo Diara, who is an archaeologist, and he holds a PhD in topography and cartography at Politecnico di Torino. From 2020, he is a postdoc researcher and teaching assistant for architecture courses. His research activity is about documentation of cultural heritage assets, especially stratigraphic analysis applied to architectural heritage of building archaeology, 3D modeling, HBIM solutions applied to archaeology and historic architecture. So I think we have a big variety of experts, but who all have a connection in the fields that Roberto was mentioning. So we hope you are going to be provided with a very, very elaborated feedback, because we have experts which are very experienced in these topics.
Yes, thank you very much.
Alex, you can start. We know you're joining us from Taiwan and it's very late there. So you can go ahead with your feedback first. We appreciate your time.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, first of all, on behalf of the executive board of CIPA, I welcome all of the EP to join such a wonderful event. And thanks for Michelle and all the gentlemen and ladies there who hold this wonderful event, and thanks for Roberto's your excellent proposal or presentation. And I suppose this is in my idea is a very, very good opportunity for different experts or different research fields. Researchers can share their knowledges and can get feedback from each others. And of course, I'm not the expert for the digital. My major. My ideas for Roberto's presentation is, first of all, you have to focus on what purposes for you to propose this proposal. And that means when you want to raise a new idea or new frameworks for the documentation, what is the main purposes? Of course, in your presentation, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different purposes. And what's new? What's new idea or new concept? Besides, you can overcome a step forward compared to other existed ideas. That's the first question I asked for Roberto. And the second, there are so many informations for the buildings, such as you in your presentation, you say you as a building you separate into 7 parts, 7 different layers. I wonder why 7, not 6 or not 8? Are there any other or any ideas for you to raise this 7 parts or 7 layers? The reason I ask you is my question is concerning to very, very important issues for the BIM is what is the purposes for you to build this model, or we can so-called it will lead you to the level of detail, LOD. Not only the detail of how you separate the element, as well as the information the element carry is also very important. So in my idea, LOD is the key issues for how you decided what is the proper size, or what is the proper scale for you to divide it into different layers or different parts. That is the most important parts in my idea. And another idea is for the purposes we build this model, or we document. It's not only from documentation, but also the final goals is to help the conservation. So the information to help the conservation is very important. So how you decided the information is the proper information can help the conservation is very important. And Another question from my side is how you exchange this information together with others. So that model or that information is not for some single conservators or some architects only, but also they have to can share with others. So it's very important when you try to raise a concept or a frameworks. You have to think about how to share the information with others, and that's my idea for your proposal. But to the final, I have to say it's very good idea and very interesting that you raise for your new proposal, and the 7 parts or 7 layers, and for not only for the conservation, but also you can do the conservation, and also you concerned with the some detail of the material or the construction. It's very good, but how to integrate all the information as a framework is the challenge you have to meet. So best wishes. Good luck.
Thank you. Can I answer something or at the end?
Please go ahead, Roberto. Yeah.
I think maybe we can wait for, I have to ask Michelle, but I think maybe we can ask some other comments, then
okay.
maybe 3 or 4, then you can feedback. Michelle.
Mina, you can go ahead and provide your feedback, Mina.
Okay, thank you very much for the very interesting and important presentation of your ideas for your PhD. I have to say that I am an archaeologist, and my knowledge of architecture is not so good, but I know Harris matrix and how it was developed, and I just looked at your images and ideas. That are you going to change the stratigraphy, as you said, the dating, to focus on function? And if you are going to change stratigraphy to function, because stratigraphy is originally from geology, and it's about the layers and their dating. So maybe you have to change your title then, if you are changing to function. This is my understanding. And when you draw those layers in the building stratigraphically, you have to also emphasize interfaces. That's very important. You have to emphasize them with a stripe, that where is another layer, where is this layer, where is that, so that you don't make an impressionistic view of the building. And then the basics of the Harris is the numbering of the layers, how you number them. So you have to think whether you are focusing on stratigraphy or function, how you are going to develop this as a maybe as a BIM more or something else, and how maybe you can combine these things, stratigraphy and BIM modeling. So my views are this, and I liked very much in this one model where the person had developed the squares to circles and to triangles for according to the material information. So visually, that was very informative, to say that there is ash or there is brick or something like that. So maybe you are interested to really base your have the basis on this matrix or the function. I don't know. I didn't get really how you want to develop the function, and not the layer, because if you are going to deal with the layers, then you can use the word stratigraphy. These are my points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. Roberto, if this is not too much for you, we can even continue with Filippo's comments. So you can then give some overall view and have a little bit more of discussion. So Filippo, here I'm giving the word to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this to share, and this presentation and interesting proposal. Thank you. First of all, you mentioned if you remember, mentioned his ground is an archaeologist. You hear me?
Sorry to interrupt. We're having a difficult time hearing you. Maybe the microphone? You can go a bit closer.
Do you hear me? Oh,
That's better.
So thank you for the presentation. Very nice and first of all, the professor Gianpietro Borgi, him as but he's quite not to confuse the archaeologists, because also my ex-professor Roberto Parenti was an architect who worked building archaeology for architects, archaeology, and for archaeologists he was this is quite common. And so one you talk about the matrix as
Filippo, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're having you're cutting in and out a little bit. Maybe if you want to turn off your video, we'll see if we can hear you better. It might be the connection.
Oh, sorry.
Let's
Do
go ahead. Maybe speak just a little slower.
you hear me?
Yes. Great.
So the arithmetic interesting for reaching a goal, okay, specific goal. When you make the math as a powerful list, I for example, a group of my colleagues, the extended, I don't know them, for example, Metrescu, the extended, and this is thought for hypothetical construction of
sites and also for architectural. So very powerful instrument can be and I am agree with you because is just an instrument, but at the same time with Mina Silver because you the order of if you do this for example in an architectural context, you have to develop different matrix proposal. For example, have to use matrix stratigraphic order. The engineers have to use for a different and can find the matrix. Also, and other professors. It's quite easy to pathology the matrix, and I agree with your proposal because it is interesting and can be useful for this analysis. And when BIM for the inclusion, I'm very happy to hear that because stratigraphics and then diagram, for me it's an element to be included in information 3D GIS or HBIM. And when we talk about I agree with Alex because important, and for this it's introduce the level information for BIM HBIM. Level information was developed for the quantity and that included inside the information system like BIM. So all this information peculiar and almost mandatory information for this project. So, thank you for this. Thank you.
Thanks, Filippo, so much for your comments and your feedback. So Roberto, we'll give you some time to address any of the comments or respond to any of the specific questions for
yes.
students. And then if there's any questions from the participants that you would like to ask, please share them in the chat and we'll relay them to Roberto.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much to everyone for this opportunity. It's the first time I'm presenting my proposal, and thank you very much for the feedback. I really appreciate the time you are taking to listen to me and then analyze my proposal and provide the comments. First of all, thank you, Professor Alex. And there are not, first there is a misunderstanding, or I explained it really bad. This division in seven units was done before. It's an improvement of the previous matrix or the original matrix, but applied to the architectural analysis. The Professor Brogiolo developed this idea in order to analyze all the parts of the building as needed. But this is not what I'm proposing. and of course, it's not just 7 elements. You can divide the whole into very, very specific parts. Even you can arrive into doors, windows, and even the windows, you can divide it in different parts. The problematic with this approach, in my point of view, is that you are dividing all the building in very, very different and specific parts. And it's not, for the beginning, for the approach, when you approach to the building, it's not easy to handle a lot of information. But it doesn't mean you don't need to do that. Of course, perhaps it is important. Then about my purpose, there is not just, okay, I think I'm going to answer to Professor Min as well and Professor Filippo with this question. My purpose is to provide new information to the matrix, which regard the pathology and methods of conservation, starting with a different process. As Professor Silver mentioned, I'm going to start, it's a theoretical approach, and I'm going to start with the function of the elements, not considering the stratigraphic analysis as the different layers and the interfaces that compose the wall. So it's right, I have to change the title maybe to provide directly the method or the way I'm going to work. Then, yeah, to Professor Filippo, I think, yes, you are right. I need to develop a different matrix to approach to the, to support my approach to the architectural documentation. This, as you said, this is called the building archaeology, which is the analysis of the standing structures at the manner of the archaeologists do in excavations. And finally, if I got good all the advices, how I'm going to exchange the information. There is a specific software. There is no BIM. Sorry, it is called the Harris Matrix Composer. You can develop there all the matrix and at the same time add the information of the specific element. So well, that's all from me. Thank you very much for the advices. I really appreciate, as I said before, the time you are taking for me. Thank you. I feel honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. If anyone else has any question, you can write in the chat. Since still we didn't get any question in the chat, you see that Michelle posted here. We will continue doing this. Yes, I'm not sure. Lisa is the one managing, is the main host. So if she can unmute.
Yes, you can raise your hand, and Elise will ask you to unmute to ask your question. Yeah, go ahead.
So this moves over, this moves over. So the change of width in the middle.
Who was it who had a question?
Uh,
Engel?
Engel?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Roberto. Muchas gracias for your presentation. It was really interesting. I wanted to ask in this topic with stratigraphical versus functional. I've been working some years in building archaeology in Germany, and there are some methods to like merge both kinds of aspects. Because actually, when you analyze a building through the building archaeology of it, kind of stratigraphical merges in the sense that some, I don't know, foundations were built before than some other versions or some other parts of the building. So are you planning sort of then merging these two topics maybe? or have you considered that? For example, in restorations or second renovations within masonries or diverse and building elements that can be organized through like relative chronological aspects with this kind of stratigraphical and functional together.
I don't think, I mean, I don't think now, I don't know if during the proposal or the development of my PhD, I want to be able to merge the chronological order with the function. But I think if you order the elements the way you find in the construction, for example, columns go before because they support beams, beams support the roof, then the way you label the number or you surround the number with squares, triangles, that specific symbol can give you the information if you go to directly to the legend, for example. I think that way you can provide the information in the same manner or at the same time you are developing the diagram. And well, I'm working on that. That's why I'm here presenting my proposal. But I think I will develop these two. I'm meaning I will merge this. Wait, I don't think they should be merged because if you document the building, can I share my screen a little bit, please? Okay. If you make the documentation in the manner of the building archaeology is this. You will provide everyone plans. This is just from the photogrammetry in the upper part to the analysis of pathologies. And in the right part are the masonry analysis. So my idea is how to provide all this information in the specific diagram. As Professor Filippo mentioned, perhaps it's a new diagram or a new form of present the diagram that Harris developed in the beginning, and all the other Italian architects. I have to say, a Spanish professor from the University of Valencia, they were developing the method. But it's still, I'm still going on with my proposal. But yeah, thank you very much for your question. I didn't think about it.
If just as a note, we could maybe later stay in touch. I'm ending my PhD and I'm using these methods for my research in buildings. So
can you write your email in the chat, please?
Probably, wait. But thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for participating. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to everybody for your feedback and the conversation. I'm just going to also throw our LinkedIn and Facebook pages in the chat. And if you are an EP and want to present your own research, please submit your application. We'll be happy to organize another session. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you very much.